When you're buying a business, are you actually buying a business or are you just buying yourself a job? A real business can run without you. A job is something that you have to do full time and take care of every day. Nothing wrong with either option, but it is important that you know which one you're buying before you make a costly mistake. Stick around, we're going to dive into this topic of whether you're buying a business or buying a job in today's video.
Welcome to the Power of Biz YouTube channel. My name is Tim Delaney, and over the past 11 years, I've purchased businesses and real estate to build my financial independence. My journey began with buying my first business with just 10% down, and through hard work and strategic decisions, I've been able to create the life that I want. I started this channel to share my story and experiences with the hope that I can help you do the same. Whether you're looking to break free from the 9-to-5 grind, build long-term wealth, or take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Join me as we explore the ins and outs of buying businesses, the challenges and rewards, and the practical steps you can take to create the life you desire. Together, we'll navigate this exciting journey to financial freedom.
Before we jump into our topic today of whether you're buying a business or whether you're buying a job, I'd really appreciate it if you take 1 second and hit that subscribe button and the like button on this video to help boost our attention and so that you know when we have future videos coming out. So, what is the difference between buying a business and buying a job? This is something that I hear people mention a lot, especially when you're talking about the world of small businesses. So, very often, owners of small businesses are working in them full time. That is their job. They get a W-2 paycheck. They're there 40, 50, 60, 80 hours a week, working it like it's their job. Sure, they might have some upside as well with the end of year net profits, but it is their job. So it's important that you make that distinction when you're buying a business. Don't just assume that you're buying a business and that things are going to run perfectly smoothly without your everyday involvement. And that's why it's important that you understand which you're buying. And as I said, there is nothing wrong with either one. When I bought my wine and liquor store, I knew I was buying myself a job. From day one, I needed to be there. 7, 8, 10 hours a day, sometimes longer. But that was my job. I was buying the business, but I was also buying a job. I went into that purchase with a plan from day one, knowing that I did not want it to be my job forever. So I had a goal and a plan to transition myself out of the day-to-day and make it into a business at a certain point in the future. And that's an important distinction. If you are going to buy a job, but you really want a business, it's important that you have that plan and there is that room for growth right from the beginning so that it makes sense for you. If you don't want a job, then make sure you're not buying a business that is actually a job. There are people that like to buy businesses that have a great W-2 job that they want to stay in. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as they know what they're buying is a business and can sustain itself and run itself for the most part on a day-to-day basis without that owner at the physical business every single day doing all of the work. So make sure you understand which you're buying up front. Some of the ways that you can tell is how much time is the seller spending at the business. And don't always just take their word for it. Stalk the business. If you're buying a retail shop or a factory or whatever it is where there's a physical presence to the business, go stalk it. Sit in the park, figure out which car the owner drives, and go sit there and watch how long the owner's actually there. If they're telling you they're only there 5 hours a week, but every time you drive by, their car's there, then they're probably not telling you the truth, and you might be buying a job. If the owner is not even taking a paycheck and they live in a different place or they spend most of their year in Florida and their business is in Wisconsin, then you know that you're probably buying a business because the owner's not there every day. Maybe they're running things remotely and maybe they're still heavily involved. It could be a 10, 20, 30 hour a week remote job for them. So you want to dig in and try to establish that as best you can. a lot of sellers are going to be fairly straightforward with you, but you never really know. So make sure you're doing your due diligence on that to make sure that you don't buy something and then find out later it's actually the opposite. I know there are people that want to buy a job too. They want to get their hands dirty. They want to do something. If you buy something that's already running very well without the owner, and then you come in and dive in and mess, you also run the risk of kind of messing things up a little bit. Nothing wrong with sitting at a higher level 40 hours a week and helping grow the business though, if that's what you want to do. So just be aware of what you're buying. Some of the biggest red flags or signs that you're buying a job instead of a business is that the seller and a lot of the sellers or some of the seller's family members are working in the business. So sometimes the seller will tell you, I'm not working there, I don't do much. But then when you dig into the employee list, you see that the husband or the wife is there every day, or cousin Joe, or a son or a daughter, or aunt or uncle. Then you kind of have to question how much that really is a business versus a job, because some of those roles the owner might only have a family member doing because they don't have enough other trusted employees to actually take on those roles. And if the owner is selling the business, you can't necessarily rely on the fact that some of those family members are going to be sticking around and still doing those jobs after the transition. Another red flag is that a key employee might be retiring on the sale as well. Sometimes if the owner has been running the business for a while and has a couple key employees that have been with them forever, sometimes those employees, and they'll outright tell you, yep, I'm not sticking around for a new transition. It's time for me to go. Been wanting to get out for a couple years. This is a good time for me to go. If that key employee or employees were doing a lot of the high level tasks that make it a business instead of a job, and they're leaving, then you're probably getting into a situation where you're buying a job. Another one is how much cash flow the business is generating. So you want to make sure that the business is kicking off enough cash flow. That's cash after all of your expenses, including your debt, are paid. If there's not enough cash being generated, then you are probably not buying a business, you're buying a job. This is especially important, as I talked about in another video, with the debts, incorporating the debt service into your pro formas, because the current seller might make enough money to pay some high-level employees because they don't have any debt on the business. It might be, for example, they have a business that's kicking off an extra $100,000 a year. The owner's not working in the business, that $100,000 goes into their pocket. They pay taxes on it, they keep the rest. Now you come along and buy the business, and maybe your loan payments add up to $75,000 a year. So you're only going to have $25,000 left after those loan payments. Then you got to pay taxes on that too. Do you have enough? Is that enough for you to actually operate it as a business and just collect that cash? If you still have another job, probably. But you want to make sure that that detail is observed. If you're relying on buying this business and not having that job, but you needed that $100,000 you saw on the seller's financials to live, then that's not going to be a good situation for you. So make sure you're digging deep and making sure that the cash is there as well. Now, as I've said, there is nothing wrong with buying a job. Don't get discouraged, or don't listen to these gurus out there saying, well, you're not buying a business, you're just buying a job. Nothing wrong with that. I did it. I have great success from it. But if you want a business and not a job in the long term, make sure you have that plan going into it and how to transition it. When I bought my liquor store, somebody made a comment to me like, oh, that's awesome, you're getting into retail. You get to work half days now. After they saw my kind of look of bewilderment, because I was definitely planning on working more than half day, they said, yeah, half day, 12 hours a day, half of 24. that's what a retail business can be. That's what any business can be if you let it or if you want it. I didn't want to do that, especially forever. And I didn't do it the 12-hour days a lot, but I had to do them sometimes. But I had a plan from the beginning to grow the business and being able to afford and hire higher level people that could take me out of the day-to-day of running the business. So if you're going to buy a job, but you really want a business, then make sure you have that growth plan in place right from the very beginning. What type of businesses are more likely to be a job versus a business when you're buying them? There's really no specific industry. It can vary. Any business can be a job. There's a lot of businesses that are run by the owner, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. And a lot of people do enjoy that. They're getting into that industry because they know it, they like it, they enjoy it. That's what they want to do. I have found it's more about the size of the business where you end up buying a job. The smaller businesses with less revenue that can't afford to pay people to take on those high-level responsibilities are usually the ones where you're going to be buying a job rather than a business. Great way to get into a business in the first place. You buy a small business, it's actually a job, you work at it for 5 years, 10 years, you build it into a business, and now you can step away and go buy another bigger business because you've already got that proven track record. What are the financial indicators that show whether you're buying a job or a business? You need to define your financial goals up front. What do you need to make? What do you want to make? What do you need to make at the beginning? What do you want to make in the future? Are you okay making the same or less than your current job, knowing that you're going to have that upside going forward? Or do you need this business to replace your full income day one, no matter what? Otherwise, you're going to really struggle. Those types of factors are personal to you, and you need to make those decisions on whether or not you're okay buying a job that might not pay as much as your current job, but after a couple years of growing, you're going to be far better off. The other factor in that too is if you're taking debt to buy the business, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, however you structure that debt, once that drops off, you are also going to have that extra cash flow. So maybe it's not even a factor of you need to grow it to get yourself out of it. Maybe it's just a period of once the debt's paid off, I'll be able to afford this person to do this so that I can move on to the next thing and make more money doing that. Just make sure that, again, if you want to grow the business or you want a business instead of a job, make sure there is enough cash there to pay the right people, the right caliber of people to make it a business and make it so that you don't have to do everything yourself. And in order to do that, you need to take a deep dive into the financials, do your due diligence, look for hidden expenses that the seller isn't paying now that you might need to pay. Will your insurance go up? Is the landlord going to raise the rent? Is there a long-term lease in place? Things like that can creep up when you buy a business if you're not careful, that you should know going into it. Make sure you have a lease. Make sure you talk to an insurance broker before you purchase so that you know what all of those expenses are going to be. Sometimes the current owner did something with insurance years and years ago, and they've grown the business, but they never upped their coverage. Now you want to get the proper coverage, and the bank might even force you to get the proper coverage if you're taking a loan, and that could be 2, 3, 4 times as much as what they were paying. Make sure you're taking a deep dive into what expenses there might be that the previous owner didn't have. So before you buy a business, make sure you're asking yourself, am I buying a business or am I buying a job? Love to hear your comments on this subject below. Please let me know what other questions you have about this subject or other topics related to buying a business. Really love to get the conversation going, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Cheers.